Hey guys, Dustin Petty here again with DMAC Construction and Design and Flipping the Beast. I am getting ready to show you another live epoxy countertop, step by step. What we're doing today is just another countertop for a desk. It is 56 inches by, I think it's 56 by 25. These are prefab countertops. And before I get started here, I am going to share this video real quick. So during this video, I'm going to go step by step, everything you need to know to be able to create these on your own. Now, bear with me, this video is going to take about 45 minutes to an hour. It depends on how long it takes me. I'm going to be doing a different design than what I usually do on these. And the biggest reasons I do these is I just love to teach people things that I've learned. And especially when it's as easy as this. If you were to pay somebody to do a custom epoxy countertop, you're looking anywhere between $100 to $200 a square foot. It's very expensive because it's not because of the product. The product's really not that bad. But it comes down to the technique that goes into it. So there is a little bit of skill involved, but really not that much. I mean, you get a great outcome even if you don't know what you're doing, as long as you use the steps that I'm going to tell you. So give me 1 second here. So I can get this going. Share this around real quick. If you know anybody that is interested in doing this, definitely tag them in this post. Da, 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 da. All right, I think we're good now. Okay, so first thing that we're going to use, I use two different types of epoxy, so I'm going to be turning the camera around. I'm my own cameraman on this. Bear with me on that, but I use a colored epoxy from Colored Epoxies. So this is a white epoxy resin and then a white epoxy hardener. So this specific epoxy mixes 2 to 1. Make sure that you always read the specifications from whatever type of epoxy you're buying that you choose to use. This kit for the white epoxy costs about $60, so it is a little more expensive than normal. But white is one of those colors that is very, very difficult to mix and to get a good opaque coloring and just to cover everything that you want it to cover. So I'm mixing 2 to 1, so I'm going to go with 6 ounces on here. And I'm going to do my hardener first. Always do your hardener first because you want every part of the cup to be coated with the hardener. Already making a mess. So make sure you clean up any epoxy that you spill. This stuff will not harden on its own unless it's mixed with the other part. 2-part resin. All right, so I'm going to set you down real quick. So with this, take it all the way up to the edge, move it around. Make sure your entire cup, mixing part of the cup is covered. So now I mixed 6 ounces. I'm going to go up to, what's my math, 18 ounces now with this white. Now I don't have to use very much. This 18 ounces will cover everything very well because this is only going to be my base coat. I may end up, well, no, not on this project, never mind. So this base coat, we're going to mix this up now, right? So you can see that it's kind of, well, not mixed, right? So I have two different mixers that I like to use. I got this new one I'm gonna try out, see how well it works. This is the one that I usually use. You can pick them up on any big box store. When you start mixing, this is your most important part. If you don't mix correctly, then the epoxy won't cure, and you'll end up with basically trash. This is the most important part. So slowly, sorry, I'm reading Linda, I'm just doing another countertop. This one's just going to be a little bit different design than what I've been doing in the past. Hey Lisa, thanks for following, watching. So slowly put your paddle into the epoxy and start mixing slowly. If you mix too fast, you're going to end up bringing bubbles into it. And bubbles are not something that you want mixed into your epoxy. Okay, so I always try to clean my paddle off a little bit. I'm going to use it on my next color. If I don't get all of the white off, then it'll just throw off my colorant for my next one a little bit. I don't want to do that. All right, back at it. So here we go. So here's our white mixed up. There are some bubbles in there. You just want to make sure it's the least amount of bubbles that you can get in there. That's really the big thing. Another thing, make sure that you have a little drink. It makes it, you want to calm your nerves while you're doing this, because really just don't overthink what you're doing. All right, so I'm gonna take this and we're just gonna try to pour it over the countertop in an even swirling motion. No science to it. Really no skill needed on this part. Just get the epoxy onto the table. Now, before you put any epoxy on here, make sure that your table is perfectly leveled. If it's not, well, this is a self-leveling material, so it will start flowing to whichever side is lower. All right, really basic 4-inch roller, foam roller. You're not gonna roll, you're actually just gonna use it to push. So you could use a squeegee if you wanted to. And all we're doing with this part is moving the epoxy around. We want to try to keep it from the edges right now. As you can see, I got it over the edge. It's not a big deal. We're just going to try to get a nice coverage going on right now. You can see the roller's not really rolling. Doesn't have to. We're just pushing this around. Now, if you go through my Facebook, you'll see that I have quite a few little training videos, just kind of sharing my knowledge, things that I've learned in the past. What's great about this material is, well, this is only the 4th project that I've done on it. Really simple if you know how material works. The concept of it is pretty general. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to figure this stuff out. Now we're going to go to the edges now. On the edges, what we're wanting to do here is we're going to try to paint on a little bit of epoxy. What we're doing with this is we're breaking the surface tension. I'm going to show you what happens if you don't. So now we're going to take a little bit of this extra epoxy up here and we're going to push it over the edge. If I can get a little extra, might have not mixed up enough. Alright, so we'll find some. There's some extra. So we're pushing it over the edge, and if you can see this, it's running over with a pretty good steady stream, right? Now over here on this side that I didn't put it on, you'll see that as it goes over the edge, it creates these drip marks. So just a little secret, make sure you break that surface tension before you go pushing the epoxy over the edge. And you'll get a nice flowing motion. Now we're going to be adding a lot more epoxy to the top of this countertop, covering almost the entire countertop with other colors, so this base color does not have to be perfect the way that I'm doing this. Now if you're wanting your base color to be your main color, I definitely recommend you using more epoxy for the top. That way you get a really nice thick base. Like I said, for this project that I'm doing here, I am just getting a nice little white base coat on top of the already white countertop. Now I've been thinking about this for a while. Those of you that know me, I don't generally do projects for other people. They're always my own. My wife and I are in real estate. We flip houses. I do a lot of the work myself as far as custom concrete countertops and the tile work. So I've been giving this a lot of thought, and those of you that are interested, that like the previous work that I've done on these epoxy countertops, depending on how many people are interested, so right now I've decided that I'm going to do 10 of these projects for people. So what I'm making here is not a, you would have to use it as a desk. You could make a table out of it. If you were to buy all the material needed to be able to do this, it's going to cost you about $200. So that's where I'm at right now. If you would like one of these made for you, your own custom desk, $200 and I'll do it for you. But you will have to pay for shipping. And this is a big table, so I'm guessing that would cost definitely over $100. I'd have to look into a little bit. If you are interested in it, definitely send me a DM and we'll go from there. You tell me your design, the colors that you want, and we'll see what we can do. So here's the base coat for you. It's going to continue to self-level out. Now we're going to start mixing other colors. All right, so now I'm going to be using a marine epoxy. This one definitely works a little different. It doesn't mix quite as easy as the white did, but it is so much harder. So, Pro Marine Epoxy. This is a 1-to-1 mixture. That's the part B, here's the part A. I'm going to mix up quite a bit of this. So we're going to go at 16 ounces for each of these. When you're pouring, you want to be very specific with your pour. You're mixing a 2-part chemical that works because of a chemical reaction. So if one part is mixed, or is if there's more of one part than the other, you are not going to get a good finish. It's either not going to cure completely, or so you'll end up with a tacky surface, or it'll end up curing too fast. It could get glazy, so it's not clear. You'll just open up a whole can of worms. So, I got busy talking there to see who noticed what I did wrong. Mix your hardener on top of the surface. So make sure that you always roll your hardener around. I'm just going to mix this bucket on the right a little bit longer to make sure that we don't get any tackiness on the edges. Alright, got these done. I'm going to clean off the edges real quick. Make sure you always have a bunch of rags sitting around, stuff that you're okay with throwing away. You're going to make a mess. It happens. Alright, so got my 2 mixes. What do we got here? Do you have an album so we can see the other projects you've completed? I don't, but you know what? I will definitely put one together. And Chrissy, yeah, you did see that? Okay. Hey, we all make mistakes, right? So, yeah, no, I'll definitely put together an album. And I'll put it in the comments on here. That way you can all see it. This will probably be one of my last lives for a while when it comes to this type of project. Main reason behind that is I'm not able to put these on YouTube, and I have a YouTube page as well. So as you're mixing this material, I'll show you the difference here in a second. Okay, so this material is a little different. So you can see where it's separated, right? The epoxy is down at the bottom and the resin's at the top, the hardener. On this one, it looks really glazy. So you want to keep mixing until that glaze is gone and it's completely clear. I'll show you here. All right, so back to mixing. Definitely take your time. So right now, this mixer that I'm using, this paddle mixer, I like it a lot better than this mixer. So this mixer, if you get too close to the surface, it actually brings a lot of bubbles down into your mixture. And this red paddle mixer that I'm using right now is not doing that. So I said it on the last mixture, definitely take your time when you're mixing. This is the most important part of the whole process. Alright, so I'm going to show you this. Dude, it's tool time! You're funny. It's going to get ready to turn into a... So this is very clear now. You can see these. The right one's got a little bit more bubbles in it. It's okay for this type of pour. Okay, so we're going to use one type of color for this specific table. If you're interested though, there are tons and tons and tons of different colors that you can use. Now these colors you can put in the white as well and give it a lot thicker look. So we're mixing it with the clear, and it's going to do just miraculous things once it's done. You'll be blown away, especially if you end up doing this yourself. When you see these in person, it blows you away. I think that's why I've started liking them again. So I used to be big into art back in the day. I think I did about 7 years through junior high and college, or junior high and high school. Then when I got into college, I actually sold my art that I made. Did custom crazy stuff anyway. And then I got out of that when I joined the military. Sorry, I'm trying to open another beer. It's not opening. Professionalism 101. Don't drink while on camera doing a step-by-step video. Okay, so we're going to be doing violet. Normally speaking, you don't need to add very much of this, but I want a very deep dark violet. So I'm gonna add about half the bag, 3/4 of the bag to one of these. Maybe not quite as much as I thought. Anyway, I'm doing more in one than the other. I'm gonna try it out, see what it looks like, and then if I need to add more, I'll add more. All right. So now, this is a big jug to be... You know, I don't even remember what... I did about 25 different projects in a 2-year span. And they were all abstract. I was pretty good at making an abstract picture, but then there being a hidden picture inside of it that you really had to look at to find. And that was kind of like what I was special at. Going back to this, so these big jugs, chemical reaction, remember? They create heat, and when you have this much material in one big cup, the heat is captured, so it's going to cure a lot faster. So the faster you can get this down onto the table, the better. Okay, so that's not as dark as I want it. I'll show you here in a second. Let's see if this one's dark. That one's okay. Let you guys see how crazy these things are. So this is the violet. You can just see how it shimmers. Okay, so I'm gonna try to pinch this down a little bit. So we've had this white on here for a while, right? It is curing at a different rate than the material that we're putting on top now. Yeah. And I'll show you why that's so cool here in a minute. Going for some Van Gogh look here. Ooh. Cool part about messing up is this is really, it's just abstract art. Especially with the design that I'm going with. I'm not trying to make it look like marble or anything else. I'm really just going for a really cool design. And it won't show itself until towards the end. And then tomorrow, the final reveal will just blow you away. So normally when I pour, I like to start on the edge and then start pouring, because I'll get a nice smooth pour. So the reason I'm using this purple, it's kind of funny, I made another project for my daughter, which if anybody wants it now, it is for sale, $200. She liked it, but she said, "Why is there so much red in it, Daddy?" Well, I made the mistake of thinking that a red color was more like magenta. And my 4-year-old didn't like it. So, all right. So now I'm making her what she asked for, purple. She wanted gold in it, but I really don't think that she truly wants gold in it. She just thinks she wants gold in it. Trying to do this a little bit faster than normal, just because, like I said, when I keep it in those big jugs, it cures a lot faster. Now you can't see it, but I've kind of done a shading where I've used the lighter violet on one side and moved to the darker violet on the other. And that's just going to get a little bit more pronounced here in a minute. Okay, pouring that back in there because now I'm going to make the colors a little bit darker. I'm a good father, honestly. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one thing I try to do. So we're gonna add a little bit of, a lot to one, just a little bit to the other. So now we're at just making new hues, basically, of this same color. Now, if you want to do this yourself, I would recommend you getting an old piece of board or something. And practicing on that before you were to do, say that you want to do your kitchen countertops. I definitely recommend you practicing before you do your kitchen countertops. This material hardens to, I don't know the PSI, I don't know if it has a PSI, but it's very freaking hard. And it does make a really good countertop. All right, back to pouring. Now we're just going to try to avoid the white. I want that white to stay where it is. We are adding some dimension to it now. Oop. So to be honest, the edges are very hard to make them have this extra color. Do your best to try to pour on what you need. That's really the only way that you're going to get it over the top, and hopefully it drops down. and gives you the look you're going for. Talking about the father thing, so my oldest daughter, she told me she wanted to be a race car driver. So I was like, man, what can I do to at least give her an idea of what racing is like? I live in a HOA community. She's too small to go get on a go-kart at a fun park or something, so I took her Power Wheels and I modified it. I took it to a 24-volt system with a variable speed pedal and all kinds of craziness, and she was pushing about 15 miles an hour on it. And out here in Tampa they have, or actually it's out in St. Pete, they have a little race that's called the Toddler Dega, and she was just slaughtering everybody. They all show up with their modified Power Wheels, and then a front wheel fell off, so we had to stop. And I fixed the wheel, but then we were messing with it again, and we ended up burning up a speed controller, and I haven't fixed it since that last mess up. So if you have a cup that allows you to squeeze it down on the end, it's going to work out a lot better for you. The cup that I'm using right now doesn't really allow me to do that. So there's nothing special about what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to come up with a really cool design. Kind of know how the material reacts, so when I'm done, there's going to be a lot of white that kind of flows into the purple. And I'll blend all of these different shades together. I don't know how much you can see right now, but there's quite a few different shades there. So I'm gonna make this purple even darker. Now this would definitely be a great addition to your flips, depending on what market you're in, honestly, because hard surfaces are definitely gonna be a little bit better than this. But if you're doing a little bit lower end flips, then this is a quick, cost-effective way. I would highly recommend this as something you do for rentals. Ooh, if you could feel how hot this jug is. Super, super hot. Because you can take existing laminate or anything along those lines and cover it with a really cool epoxy. I mean, you can do all white, you can do black, you can do whatever you want. So like I said, the sides are hard to get a really good design on. Because the material just flows. And I apologize if some of my video is just pointing off into space. Trying to focus on my pour a little bit. I was looking into this camera system that actually follows around a little tracker that I wear on my arm. Just thinking about maybe picking that up. One thing I love learning how to do things like this, because it's for one, it's an amazing treat for my kids, where they get to have, last little bit, they get to have something very, very unique for a relatively small price tag. And honestly, this countertop is going to last for a very, very long time. So what I'm doing now is just trying to make some drops fall. My fingers are burning because this cup is so freakishly hot. I'm going to show you something that happens. Hopefully it doesn't backfire on me. But I warned you, like, be careful of how hot this gets, right? Well, if it gets too hot, it will melt straight through the cup. Now this is a smaller amount. It's still going to get very hot. I don't think it'll melt through the cup though. So I'm going to leave this in here. And I'm going to come back to that here in a little while. And you can see what's actually happened to that cup. All right, this is what pulls it all together now. So I have a couple different spatulas that I use. Got this little guy, used for tint. This is used for tint as well. Any kind of plastic spatula is what you're looking for. So I have very small lines here, so I'm gonna start off with just using this small spatula here. What I'm gonna do is, actually, you know what? I'm gonna use the big one first. I'm gonna drag along my design. And what I'm doing is blending the colors together. So I have some on my, a little bit of white there. I'm gonna leave it because I want to get a little bit more mixture going on. So I want to try to get rid of these lines as much as I can. And actually, I'm just going to pull straight across them for now, just to get a little bit of blending going on. And then I'm going to be a little more specific with what I do, because the epoxy's already curing and I'm dragging clumps of it. It is not something I want. But what we're doing is we're trying to make a more fluid, natural, flowing look in this. Instead of it being so rigid. Try to drag your spatula all the way off the table so you don't leave indentations. Now you're not putting any pressure on this spatula, you're just letting it sit on top of the epoxy. Really trying to get rid of those lines because all I want is that white to blend. Because once it starts curing, if you remember, it's a different type of epoxy. So it's gonna blend and cure at a different rate than the rest of the epoxy. And it's going to actually separate itself from that other epoxy. And I am happy right now because this is almost exactly what I wanted. I had a gentleman tell me that some of these look like the storms that are on other planets. And I'd have to agree with him a little bit. But like I said earlier in the video, I am going to do 10 of these for anybody that might be interested. There is going to be $200 charge on this, and you will have to pay for shipping. Basically, I don't know how much shipping is going to be. This is, it weighs maybe 35 pounds. It's 56 inches by 25 or 26. It is used for a desk. You could, however, hang this on your wall. You know, I think I'm done. I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm pretty freaking happy with how this has turned out. So this, my friends, is a desk for my 4-year-old daughter. Let me see. How do I go about figuring out how much epoxy? Honestly, I just kind of guess. I guesstimate a little bit more than what I need. So 32 ounces will cover, oh, here we go. Sorry, all right, so my cup has shrunken down and it has melted through on one side, as you can see here. So this is definitely something that can cause severe burns if you were to get it on your skin at this point. Very, very, very hot. That plastic on the bottom is melted straight through. As you can see, it's already hard sitting here in the cup. So do not leave extra epoxy in the cup. You want to try to spread it out on plastic or something, cardboard, anything that you can throw away once it cures. So I use 32 ounces of the base for, we'll just say 60 by 30, okay, inches. And then with the colorant, it really depends on how dark you want it, because you're gonna have some trial and error on how much you mix into this clear to get the actual colors that you want. They're not gonna be perfect the first time. That's why I recommend practicing on something that you're not too concerned about. So now we're going to go around and try to clean up the edges, right? So I've got some little runs I'm just going to try to blend them out a little bit. It will self-level a little bit, but I'll be honest, these edges, when you're using this type of clear epoxy, it just is not a solid color. It's mica powder mixed in with clear epoxy. So getting a solid look, if you want solid edges, you know, married edges, that miter look, if you will, you're not going to get it really easy with this material. I'm going to let it sit here for a minute. I'm going to clean off some of my quick. And then there's a couple more steps. Probably one of the second most important steps is we want to get rid of all of the bubbles that are on the surface. And in order to do that, we're going to use a blowtorch. Best part, get to play with fire, right? Move this down to the floor so it doesn't ruin my tabletop. Here we go. I think I have enough in here. Sorry, I think I lost you all there. I'm trying to take my glove off and messed up. Okay, so fire, plastic. Plastic melts when you put fire on it, but it also burns. So very constant flow. Don't stay in one spot. It's hard to see on the camera, but little tiny bubbles are popping. So just a nice constant motion. This isn't really going to change the cure time at all. It cures by chemical reaction, a little bit by heat, so it will speed up a little bit. But it creates the heat. Now, I said I'm probably not going to be doing many more lives like this. I am definitely still going to be doing a lot of videos, but I will be sharing them from my YouTube page, so you'll still get to see them. If I ever get camera equipment set up, then maybe I'll have one video going live, and then I'll have some other cameras that are videotaping this for me so I can throw it on YouTube. Get your edges. All right, now I'm going to go across this way. Just get those last little ones that we missed. This has turned out darn near perfect for what I wanted. I'm pretty happy with this one. And if you know me, that's a rare thing for me to say, because I am my biggest critic, and it's not very often that I'm actually happy with a project that I've done. Even though other people have thought it was amazing. Alright, so once I finish up this flamethrower, think we're good now. Make sure you turn that completely off. I always kick it again. Make sure there's no extra fuel in there. I'll take off my other glove. There we go. Okay, so here's what I was talking about with the white. So the white is going to separate. If you use the same materials as me, it's going to separate like this. Now there's tons and tons of dimension in this because I did use so much epoxy on the surface. And you can see how that white has separated and just created this magnificent finish. Now it's going to continue separating for the next hour or so. All right, so last step. And this step is annoying because it takes up some of your time, right? So you gotta take another spatula and go along the edges. So you see those drips? We need to get rid of those drips. But those drips are gonna continue to happen for the next couple hours. So take your spatula and scrape it along the bottom. Now you see this cardboard trough that I have here? It is a necessity. You will make a massive, massive, massive mess if you do not have it. As you can see, there is a lot of epoxy in there. That just flows off the edge. There's not much you can do to reduce that because you want that flow over the edge to make sure that your edges are thick as well. So, scrape off these drips. Oh, I've also learned from experience, if you do this in your garage, close your garage door. You do not want to encapsulate mosquitoes in the surface of your countertop. It doesn't look very good. All right, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me for the last, I don't even know how long, hour or so. I appreciate it. Hey, if you enjoyed watching this, you thought it was neat, you thought it was informative, you think you're going to try it out yourself, hey, please give me a like, follow me, and share it onto your page, please. I usually do one project a week, so look for my videos. I probably won't be doing too many more lives, like I said before. But hey, guys, enjoy your Saturday night.